The college football playoff and ACC Championship game hopes are still alive.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome in to this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my sixth year covering U of L, fourth year hosting this show. And I want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville free and available on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. Don't forget to leave a comment in the YouTube section below because, as you all know, that's a great way to help the show continue to grow. It is much appreciated. But on the show today, we're discussing how the season outlook has done a complete 180 for the Louisville Cardinals after defeating Miami on Friday. The ACC Championship game and college football playoff hopes are still alive for Jeff Brohm's team. We'll break that down. We'll also discuss the most realistic pathway for the Cardinals to get back to Charlotte and that ACC Championship game. And finally, Chris Bell continuing to absolutely dominate ACC defenses. More on that at the conclusion of the show. But first, this episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. So we spent the past couple of days breaking down this 24-21 upset victory for the Louisville Cardinals and explaining what all went right for Louisville down at Hard Rock Stadium. And that answer is that a lot of things went right for Jeff Brohm's team, and we love to see it. But a victory of this magnitude has caused the season outlook to do a complete 180. After you lose to Virginia, you're sitting there at 4-1. You go to the bye week, and your get-right game just so happens to be the top team in the ACC and perhaps the top team in the country. And you go down there, and you don't trail once. Winning the game the way you did in primetime with everyone watching caused the tone to change in the national media. Now the talk is about, well, don't sleep on the Louisville Cardinals. Number 19 in the AP poll after the victory. Their schedule is somewhat favorable to get to the college football playoff. They are a dark horse in the running to get to the college football playoff. Now, there will be some that listen to what I just said and instinctively they're going to say, well, we need to focus on the next game. We're only halfway through the regular season. We really shouldn't be looking to the end of the year and basically using the Miami game as an automatic success to get us to the next level. And they're 100% right. I think it goes without saying. I shouldn't have to say it, but I'll say it anyway. The focus needs to be, of course, on the next game because we've seen the past two seasons with the Notre Dame win in 23, with the Clemson win in 2024. The Cardinals have lost a game that they absolutely should not have immediately following that huge statement victory. I have thoughts on this and why I don't think that trend is going to continue. And there are some things that make me feel a little bit better. And of course, we will break this down later on in the week when we move to Boston College Prep. But anyway, I feel like a win of this magnitude, you kind of have to talk about the shockwaves that it sends through the rest of the season. Because this victory could be very monumental. I mean, it's already monumental. It could be the foundation for something very special for this team and kind of makes me even more frustrated over that loss to Virginia. But at the moment, Louisville is 5-1. They're number 19 in the AP poll, and their only loss is to Virginia, which, of course, does not look like a bad loss at this point in time because Virginia is number, 16 in the country now? And they have a favorable schedule. So if Virginia keeps winning, that loss isn't going to look bad whatsoever. Now you have the Miami victory to be able to point to and say, hey, look, we played some good teams, and look, we've beaten them. So I think that it is justified to talk about this. You understand that the focus has to be on the next game each and every week, and that goes without saying. But on the heels of this victory, we got to talk about what it has done for the season, and that is keep the door open for the college football playoff hopes and the ACC Championship game hopes. Number 19 in the poll. You look at the rest of the schedule for the Cardinals, and very good chance they're going to be favored in each and every game down the stretch. The only way that I would see that they're not favored is if SMU defeats Miami coming up and SMU gets ranked, because it is a home game for the Mustangs when they play the Cardinals later on in November. If SMU is ranked and they keep rising up the rankings, I think that changes things a little bit. Maybe you're not favored in that one, but chances are you're going to be favored in each of the final 6 games if you continue to win the week prior. Here's the thing, and I've seen the discussion on social media and group chats that I'm in, and I think it is a fascinating discussion. Do you want to get to the ACC Championship game, or would you just rather win out? There's no secret that you still need help to get back to Charlotte. You need some help from a couple of different teams tripping up along the way, and we'll spend the next segment talking about the realistic pathway to getting back to the ACC Championship game. But there are some great points made by both sides of the argument, because if you go 11-1 and you don't get to the ACC Championship game, and you're kind of sitting there at 11-1, right now you're 19th in the country. If you win your next 6 regular season games, granted, not the best competition, but I think a win over Clemson looks decent. I think a win over SMU looks even better. I think the fact that you theoretically would win the next 6 games looks the best, because then you're 11-1, you're a Power 4 team, you have the top victory over Miami, your only loss is to a ranked Virginia team, and that was your, fifth game of the season. I find it very hard to believe, sort of like the committee did with Indiana last season. Indiana didn't have any signature victories. I don't think that they had a victory as good as the Miami one for Louisville, but you couldn't keep Indiana out. Just like 11-1 Louisville, with SEC teams taking each other out down the stretch, I don't know that you could justify a 9-3 SEC team over an 11-1 ACC team. Now, don't sit here and preach to me about the strength of schedule. I get it. I just don't think that the committee is going to look at this and say, yeah, with Louisville at 19 now, they're realistically going to rise up the rankings. To what point, I don't know. I would say they're probably going to be in the top 12 because teams are going to lose ahead of them. Of course, this is all hypothetical, but if you get to 11-1, you don't make the ACC Championship game, I think you're in. Now, here's the tricky part. There is a benefit to making the ACC Championship game, and there is a drawback. The benefit is win and you're in. If you win the ACC Championship game, it doesn't matter really what other teams do. You don't really leave it up to judgment. 11-1, you win the ACC Championship game, you're in the playoff automatically. And there's a potential chance that you could have a first-round bye. Likely? Probably not, but it's possible. But the drawback is this. What happens if you lose that game? Say you go 11-1, because I think that that's what you have to do. I don't think that you can trip up. You don't have any margin for error for the rest of the season, really, especially for the ACC games. If you lose to Kentucky, I mean, you still can make the ACC Championship game, but we need to have a serious conversation then. But anyways, if you're 11-1 and you lose in the ACC Championship game, let's say you have a rematch with Miami or Virginia, or you play a Georgia Tech team that is undefeated. Let's say you hypothetically lose that game. At 11-2, we saw SMU as one of the final teams left in the field last year to make the playoff. You see, like there's some give and take there. You have some solid pros, but you also have some bad cons. So I understand both arguments. Personally, for me, I just want to continually win each and every week, and whatever happens, happens. Because if you handle business, if you control what you can control and go 11-1, I think you're in. I don't really think it's going to be that big of a debate. I think they're going to be one of those teams, and I don't think they're going to be all that highly ranked in the top 12, but they're going to be in the top 12, and that is the goal at the end of this season. So again, goes without saying, you still have to treat every week like it's the most important game on the schedule, because it is. I mean, it's a week-to-week thing. The sport of football is. You have to have maximum focus, maximum intensity and concentration each and every time you step out on the field, and you can't overlook anyone. I'm not telling anyone something that they don't already know, right? I mean, like, you all know this. And I would imagine that the coaching staff and the players, of course, know this as well. But when you have that victory over Miami, kind of have to talk about it, right? You have to talk about what it does for the rest of the schedule, and that is set the Cardinals up in a very opportunistic spot. One of those spots is still being in contention for an ACC Championship game appearance, but they are going to need some help. Let's break down the most realistic pathway when we come back. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. Card Nation, at this time, I want to tell you about our friends over at Monarch Money. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts. In 2025, you need to be on top of the ball. Whether it's 401ks, savings, or investments, it's easy to lose track. That's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings an entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It's helped me organize my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com with code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. And while I have you, let's talk about FanDuel, one of the title sponsors of the show. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little bit riding on the action, whether it's parlays, player props, or even if you follow the live lines during games. Don't wait any longer. Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Thank you all so much for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville is free and available on all streaming services, including YouTube and now TikTok. 5 days a week, your team every day. Let's take a look at the ACC standings, the realistic pathway for the Cardinals to get back to Charlotte, who they need some help from, and much more. Currently, the Cardinals 5-1, 2-1 in conference play. They are tied for, I think, what is that? 4th place? Georgia Tech is 4-0 in ACC play. Virginia and SMU both 3-0. Pittsburgh and Duke both 3-1. At the moment, the two teams that you really have to literally cheer against would be Georgia Tech and Virginia. Process of elimination. The other one-loss teams, Miami, Pittsburgh, you have the head-to-head victory over those two teams. Now, when you get in this situation of three-way ties, it gets very intriguing. The water gets murky, and it comes down to, A, have all the teams that are tied played each other? That answer is probably going to be no. And B, what about the win percentage among common opponents? And that's where it gets really tricky, because that's going to change every single week. But I think the main idea here is that Louisville just has to control what they can control. If they don't win out the regular season in the ACC, I don't really think it matters, because I don't think that there's going to be more. I think that there's going to be two teams with less than 2 losses in the ACC Championship game, or 2 at the very most. So you're looking at Miami. You've got the head-to-head victory over them. Pittsburgh, the same thing. California has 1 loss. You get a chance to beat them in the season. If you do that, they're going to fall down to 2 losses, and that's going to knock them off the line. Let's see. Duke is in an interesting spot. They have at Clemson. They will play Virginia. They're at North Carolina versus Wake Forest. That Clemson game is going to be an interesting one, because if Clemson's defense shows up, I think that the Tigers can win that game. And if so, Duke is going to fall down. But they will play Virginia, and that's an intriguing matchup, because don't forget, the Cardinals have lost to Virginia. So that head-to-head. But if you have a 3-way tie, hey, now things get pretty wild, because Duke beat Virginia and Virginia beat Louisville. And I don't know, it's a weird triangle, and it really just kind of depends. But the two teams that I think you're looking toward the most, Georgia Tech and Virginia. Because SMU, if you beat them, you're going to have that head-to-head. SMU still has to play Miami. If SMU beats Miami, then we have a different conversation. But I think that the Hurricanes are going to bounce back and beat the Mustangs. Regardless, one of those teams is going to fall out of the hunt for the time being. I think the magic number is 2 losses. Once you pick up that second conference loss, you need just absolutely unforeseeable pandemonium to occur to get back in the conversation. But Georgia Tech and Virginia are clearly in the driver's seat. Virginia has at UNC, at Cal, versus Wake, and at Duke. That's almost as easy as it gets. At Cal could be an interesting game. I think if you're a Louisville fan, you need to be cheering for the Golden Bears in that game because Virginia does have the win over the Cardinals. But anytime you can get in a situation where you are tied for that spot, I think it's going to work to your advantage. And then you've got that game at Duke. So maybe Virginia, if you're looking at this, if Cal can somehow beat them, all of a sudden you've got Duke and Virginia kind of duking it out, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, who cares? Let's have some fun. Duking it out for a spot because Duke or Virginia at that point would have 2 conference losses, whoever loses. And then you have Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech, I mean, they should have lost to Wake Forest. ACC rep said, nah, I mean, we need Georgia Tech in the mix. Duke gifted them points. The fumble at the goal line returned all the way. The botched field goal. Georgia Tech has Syracuse, at NC State, at Boston College, and versus Pittsburgh. Again, very easy. Syracuse, they should beat. At Boston College, should be a big victory. At NC State and Pittsburgh is pretty intriguing, though. I won't lie to you. Because NC State is a team that if you're playing at Carter Finley Stadium, things can get weird. Now, NC State is 4-3. They're 1-2 in conference play. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's going to be, or an upset's going to be imminent, but it could happen. And then you've got Pittsburgh at home, and Pittsburgh has been playing better. They're 5-2, 3-1 in conference play. They beat Florida State. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They just blew Syracuse out. So who knows? Pittsburgh could be a good team. They made a quarterback change and went to a true freshman, and he's been really good. So I know that I'm throwing a lot at you all there. I think that what I'm trying to get across is that not only does Louisville need help, but they need things to go their way from like who they're getting help from. Regardless, Georgia Tech, Virginia, those teams losing helps Louisville regardless because you get closer. The issue is that you've got these other one-loss teams, and yes, if you beat SMU and they have 1 loss, if you beat Miami, they have 1 loss. If you beat Cal, that'll probably send them out of the ACC Championship game hunt. But you beat Miami and Pittsburgh. If those teams, for whatever reason, end up running the table with you, I mean, those head-to-head victories, they might help. I don't think they can hurt you, but I don't think that they're going to be the only thing that gets you in. So there's a lot of going back and forth here. That's why I'm kind of like, just handle your business. Because you could go 11-1 and miss out on the ACC Championship game. And you know what? Low-key, I'd be okay with it. Because then, yes, I mean, yeah, if you win the ACC Championship game, it'd be great. You're automatically in. And you always kind of, like, the thought of winning the ACC is awesome. Like, I would love to get back to Charlotte because I would go to that game this year, and it'd be a fun time. The drawback is that if you lose that game, your playoff spot is very much in jeopardy. More so than if you just hadn't played the game at all. And that has been a huge topic of conversation. Is like, okay, you've earned a spot with a good performance throughout the year and winning the games where you needed to, you've earned a spot. It's supposed to be a benefit to get to the conference championship game, but it's clearly being used against teams when they lose that championship game. So at this point, it's too early to get super involved. I think that there are some games where you can point to and say, hey, look, I would like to see this team win this week. Like, if you look at the ACC schedule for week 9, let's take a look at it, okay? Before we talk about what Chris Bell has been doing. If you look at this and you talk about, well, who do you want to cheer for? You want to cheer for Syracuse to beat Georgia Tech. You want to cheer for North Carolina to beat Virginia. You want to cheer for NC State to beat Pittsburgh. But none of this matters if Louisville doesn't win. So, again, prerequisite, the Cardinals have to put those wins together, show that consistency, and win week in, week out. But let's continue. Let's continue talking about. Sorry, I was sitting there looking at a notification that came out about Louisville football, and I was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's an old notification that, for whatever reason, surfaced." But anyways, Chris Bell has been absolutely incredible over the past couple of weeks. He has been a menace to ACC defenses. I've gone on record saying that I believe he's going to be a first-round pick next April. Let's discuss what number 0 is doing when we come back. You're tuned into Locked On Louisville, covering your team every day. College football is back after the bye week. The Louisville Cardinals have never been more back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, rivalries, and energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. The Cardinals have a rare night game in conference play this Saturday, 7:30 kickoff against the Boston College Eagles. We need to pack out L&N Stadium. And what better way to get those tickets than using Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. If you pull up Gametime right now, you're going to see all the amazing deals. The app makes it super simple. You can see the exact view from your seat. There are no surprise fees. It's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've ever bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Don't forget Card Nation coming up later in the week. We are going to, of course, begin previewing the upcoming matchup against Boston College. Louisville basketball is back this Friday with an exhibition against Kansas. So we will discuss that coming up probably on the Thursday edition of the show. I'm still working some things out, and of course, if something new pops up, we'll discuss. But to conclude the show today, let's talk about a consistent spot in a rather inconsistent offense. Look, I'll say that Friday night was the best overall showing that we've seen from the Cardinals offense. We've seen the high highs from this unit, and I'm hoping that the offense can use this as a building block to springboard them into new heights. And I'm optimistic. I'm encouraged. But Chris Bell, even when the offense hasn't been consistent, Chris Bell has. This season, he has yet to have any game where he's recorded under 50 receiving yards. And that's including those games where the offensive line hasn't given Miller Moss much time to throw. The offense has been one-dimensional. I mean, he's been banged up. The lowest receiving total he's had this season is 51 yards. He was banged up in that game against Bowling Green, and he didn't even play for much of that second half. So 4+ catches in every game this season. But it's the past 3 weeks where you can tell something has clicked for Miller Moss and Chris Bell. Chris Bell said after the game that he's believed in Miller Moss since the first time he had a conversation with him. And you can see that chemistry starting to blossom. The past 3 games, all in ACC play, I might add, at Pittsburgh, 10 for 135 and 1 touchdown. Virginia, 12 for 170 and 2 touchdowns. 9 for 136 and 2 touchdowns against Miami. Chris Bell has been unguardable. They haven't been able to check him. Every single test that has been thrown his way, he has aced it. And he's playing better against better competition. And you can throw some different looks at him. If you want to press him up close to the line of scrimmage, if you want to try to blanket, use blanket coverage against him and try to, bracket him in to where if he's catching the ball, it's not on big plays. It hasn't really mattered. Other teams know that Chris Bell is the focal point of this Louisville passing attack, and they haven't been able to stop him. They have not been able to stop him. This season, he's averaging 14.5 yards per reception. And he's always been that big play receiver, right? A 14.5 would be, if that were to stay true for the rest of the season, that would be the 3rd highest in his 4 seasons. He had 15 yards per reception in small sample size his freshman year, and then 17.1 last year as a junior. But here's the thing. Chris Bell, I think he represents the type of player that you don't see much, or not as much as you used to. That's the player that sticks with a team throughout his whole college career and just banks on internal development. Say, hey, you know what? I'm not playing so much this year, but I'm going to keep getting better, so I will play more and more. And don't forget, Chris Bell turned down money to go to the SEC in the offseason. He turned money down to stay at Louisville, bank on himself, and bet on himself and bank on his draft stock being at Louisville in this offense. And if you know the team that I'm talking about, he made 1,000,000% the right decision. 44 catches, already a career high. We are halfway through the season. 638 yards. He is technically 99 yards away from surpassing his top number. If he stays healthy, and knock on wood, I hope he does, he's going to be Louisville's next 1,000-yard receiver. He's probably going to get double-digit touchdowns. And being 6'2", 220 pounds, the big play receiver that he is, as fast as he is for his size, you best believe it. I've made this point before. You best believe he is going to ace the combine workouts. He's going to knock the tests out of the park. It would not surprise me. In fact, I am predicting it. I think Chris Bell is a first-round draft pick next April. I think that's how good he is. Like I said, 6'2", 220 pounds, solid route runner, a guy that can take the top off the defense, has the juice and explosiveness to catch an underneath route and take it for a touchdown. See James Madison. See Pittsburgh. See twice against Miami. Like, what more do you need to see other than just being consistent? And I think that that's where he's going to continue to take off. Like, you will know more and more about Chris Bell as the season goes on. And if it wasn't for guys like Mekhi Lemon or Jordan Tyson, I would say that Chris Bell could enter into the running and throw his name into the Blitnikoff Award watch. So he has been fantastic. It has been awesome watching him consistently grow each and every season. Like, there has been an aspect to his game that he has substantially improved year over year. And now you see it all come together. I mean, this is a phenomenal talent. Don't take it for granted. We've got hopefully at least 6 games left, if not more, hopefully more, for Chris Bell in a Louisville jersey. But it's been such an honor to be able to watch him play, but he deserves his flowers. We have to have our own segment talking about him because look what he's doing. It's incredible. And if he stays on this pace, sky's the limit. That is going to wrap up this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Everyone have a great day. We'll be right back here tomorrow. We'll see you then. Go Cards.